The Conservative Minister of Justice presented this law, and the idea was that when the obscenity laws on pornography and sexual literature was decriminalized, you saw a decrease in the publications. So he had hoped for the same with picture pornography. If we legalize it, it will probably go away. But it didn't happen that way. On the contrary, this actually started a wave of pornography, and Denmark, for a short while, became kind of the center of attention for pornography. We have the very, in the Danish context, very famous sex fair, Sex 69, in October 69, remember? The law is from July, it's quite, only a couple of months afterwards. A big arena in Copenhagen, open for a full weekend. Everybody can come and watch like sex toys and all this stuff. Apparently 50,000 people went to this fair, and journalists from all over the world came as well, and putting Denmark on the sexual map of the world. And a lot of sex shops opened, small cinemas. This is from the main pedestrian street of Copenhagen. This is very funny. This is from the main pedestrian street in Copenhagen, where they had a sex shop in the center. According to the criminologists who did quite a lot of research in this area around this liberalization of pornography, there was about 110 to 120 porn shops in Denmark in this period, about 60 in Copenhagen, and I did like kind of cross-reference to like a sectionary, like a little guide of sexual attractions in Copenhagen, and I found it's really hard to say, is this covering this title of a store, is this a cinema, is this a sex shop, is this something else, but around 40 I counted. And if we look at the listings in one of the big papers, Ekstrabladet, from the 20th of February 1970, you can see ads from Obliged to Success, our big special live shows, twice a day, striptease, lesbian, intercourse, and also demonstration, intimate massage, the strongest show over there, club erotica, and so on. So there was a lot of things going on, and as well, this is for you, Oliver. The brothers Chandler, who had like a second-hand bookstore very near to the Wall Square, started the production of 8mm films, which became a very big thing with their color climax. But that's kind of the situation in just around the liberalization of picture pornography, and I think a lot of scholars, or what you would say, people interested in this topic, agrees that this was kind of a very short, very intensive wave, especially with sex clubs. But what I'm interested in is how about the kind of how did pornography assimilate to mainstream cinema, and how was it, especially with the film production and exhibition in the 1970s. And this, of course, coincides with what William has called the classical era of theatrically exhibited porn. The problem is that the research in this era, in this topic, is quite small. A good place to start is Scandinavian Blue. It's not an academic book by Jack Stevenson, but it covers all of Scandinavia. There's some other books. Lille Nordstrøm, it's like a Danish pornography from 2012, which is like a coffee table book. It's very well researched. And we have a few academic articles, but they're quite old, like Carl Nørsted's article from 1991. And it also has a kind of, it's very prejudiced in the approach to the topic. Another thing that makes it a little bit difficult to research this area is that we don't have any official statistics of box office sales for this period. I just have to mention it. But if we go to the literature on Danish cinema, there are two interesting statements. One is from a film historian called Marginal, he's a big authority in Denmark, and he wrote in 1976 that approximately about 24% of the feature film production of the early 70s in Denmark was pornography. A quarter of all the films produced, of all the feature films in Denmark, was porn films. And Dan Nissen, in also a very good film historian, writes later in a big authoritative Danish film history that approximately 30% of Danish film production was of sexual, this is a little bit hard to translate into English, but observation, orientation in the first 4 years of the 1970s. So, from these two statements, you can get an impression that there was a lot of feature porn film produced in Denmark. When you see two statements like this, I often return to a kind of definition about what is pornography. And this is taken from the Danish Encyclopedia, and I think in their definition of pornography, they say writings, pictures, and other materials which seeks to be sexually stimulating. But what actually is sexually stimulating is, however, individual and historically changeable. And I think that's important to remember that when they did these things, when Peter made his statement in '76, some of these films, which he considered pornographic, he would probably not consider pornographic. Now, I know some of them you can find on YouTube. Yeah. Anyway, my idea was to see, beside the 8mm films, where can we find pornography in the Danish feature films of the 1970s? And when I have this kind of definition of pornography, that means that kind of penetration and ejaculation shots and stuff like this. So I kind of did a categorization in 4 categories. First of all, the feature porn films, which also tends to be a little bit more exploitative when in the mid-70s. And I counted around 10, 15 of these feature porn films. And and then the sex comedies. And we have 2 major series of sex comedies in the 70s. One is called the Bedside series, which you can consider like soft core sex comedies, which you can find, I think, basically all over Europe. Simulated sex, nudity. And then we have a little group of films, which are quite interesting, which are like documentary sociological films. Some of them are documentaries about what is this phenomenon of pornography. Some of them use this thing that you can make pornography to make political films. And finally, we can find a bit of pornography in some of the mainstream and art cinema. So just a couple of examples. The feature porn films. Pornography, a compilation of stag films shot in the 60s, 10 stag films, compiled into a feature-length film, and with a new soundtrack made by Dexter Gordon, very famous jazz musician who lived in Copenhagen at the time, which also indicates this porn chick thing, that we'll do a porn film, we'll have some groovy jazz to it. The other one is more exploitative. I Saw Jesus Die, warning, a very strong pornographic film, a film that would shake the Christian part of the world. There's another one called Horny Lisbeth, overklassens hemmelige sexglæder, the upper classes secret sex secrets. These are a bit strange, and that's when I say I kind of say there's about 10 to 15 Danish feature porn film. This is like a co-production with America, and also the next one I will show you. This one, Wild Porn Lusts, new Danish-American porn film in color. And then there's another example of the more exploitative, like the sinful war. So that was the first category. The next one is the comedies. This is Mazurka on bedside. Mazurka, I think the English translation is a these like sex comedies you can find in most of the Western part of the world at the time. And then we have this special series called the Zodiac films. And I hope you, sorry if it's going too fast, but I hope you notice that it's actually the same actor playing the lead. Ole Søntoft is the main star of the film, and also the main star of the Zodiac films. So, the main difference between these two films, and they were like popular Danish comedies with well-known, popular Danish actors. And the main difference is that in the Zodiac films, this is combined with hardcore sex scenes. So you have a bit of comedy, hardcore sex, comedy, hardcore sex. That's the main difference. In the Bedside series are just comedies with nudity, except for the two I have in bold, highlighted here. They contain hardcore sex as well. The Zodiac films, apparently, were some of the best or most seen films during the 70s. And the box office numbers I have put up here on the slide, they're not too reliable, but the numbers in brackets indicate they were the second most selling tickets that year. Did it make sense?
Of Danish films.
Danish films, yeah. Okay. Then an example of pornography in an art cinema film, White Days and Clichy, and then two examples of the documentary sociological films, Sex en Bro, a documentary and what would you say, like observational documentary about what is happening in the porn industry, and then a film by a couple called Kobenhavns, which is more like political statement. Very interesting film. Okay, so I had some questions. Were porn films actually shown in already established cinemas? Where did the films originate from? And then there's a very widespread assumption in Denmark that these Zodiac films were so popular because they were shown around the main area of Copenhagen with English subtitles, and it was mainly tourists who saw them. That has been kind of the explanation. So I've done like two kind of content analysis. One is of the Danish tabloid newspaper Ekstra Bladet, which is like a very broad-minded, like on the little man's fighting for the ordinary man. They were the first paper, newspaper that had like a nude woman, nude girl, on page 9 every day, and they had it until about a couple of years ago. So I went through the cinema ad list for the Copenhagen area in the period from August 69 and 10 years to 79, and I did the sample list like for every year, 1st of August, 1st of November, 1st of January, and this is a paper that only comes on weekdays, so I also have two alternative days. So, Copenhagen in this period, about 28 to 30 cinemas from 69 to 79, and the first kind of encounter with sex films were these two in August 69. They're shown in two cinemas, Carlton and Vesterbio. One is a Swedish film, And the other one is called The Secret Sex Life of Romeo and Juliet. You'll find it on YouTube, it's quite harmless. So the first films were like softcore films, which is interesting to notice. And what I thought was interesting as well was in the cinema culture, they could show a film by Akira Kurosawa, Himmel og Helvede, I think it's called High and Low, the English translation, and then afterwards the sex comedy of it. Yeah. So this is a mixture. It's not just sex films. And Maria a couple of years ago said to me, "That's quite interesting." But because if you look at this area, I hope I can find long enough. This is the main train station, and then you have the whole area here with all the sex clubs and the small home cinemas. And these two cinemas I've been talking about so far, Vesterbio and Carlton, they're situated right here. So if you want to see the real stuff, you just have to walk 150 meters. But they still show soft core films. So my assumption would be that there's this new phenomena. You want to see it, but you don't want to go into the red light district. But you can kind of get like the substitute in a softcore film and go to an ordinary cinema and see for the time being. The first film I saw, I noticed, shown in, or the hardcore porn film shown in an ordinary cinema was Pornography, as I mentioned before. The Stack film is from the 12th of July 1971, it's shown in Carlton. So around this period, hardcore porn films begins to be shown in normal cinemas. I have another example here, which is a bit curious. It's a film called Blackout, and what I noticed was this is also shown in another Copenhagen cinema. It says yet English subtitles. It's the first entry where this kind of appeals to tourists, probably. This film Blackout exists in 2 copies. I don't know if this is the right one. It's made under another title, and then it was re-edited, and there was added some hardcore porn scenes to the film. This happened to a couple of films. This has been a little. I'm sorry. This is a bit like content analysis. It's a bit explorative, so I'll kind of tell you a little bit about my findings and observations. Yeah. This thing about that you can show like a children's film in the morning, like in the cinema Colosseum, and I mean this is Vater 4, Father 4 is like legendary Danish series, and then you have like Poor 6, very young sex in the evening. You can find some more examples of. You have the Walt Disney Oscar show, and then you have Why Did They Do It in the afternoon. And this film, Sex and Group, which is like a documentary about the porn business, shown as with English subtitles, but presented as a porn film. So it was actually intended to be something completely different. Another example, children filmed in the day and Deep Throat in the evening. Around 73, the American porn films began to appear on the Danish screens, and there's this kind of consumer declaration we start to sneak into the ads. You have this kind of stamp that says real porn, and here as well, real porn. So you're aware this is not soft, this is the real stuff. And this kind of consumer declaration appears in different ads as well. This is from a Danish hardcore film comedy. It's called Danish sex comedy with mild porno. But I was also interested in this about the Zodiac films, and this is just the first indication that the Zodiac film was shown in a cinema very near to the city center where all the tourists are, but they were also with Danish sex comedy and Silent Virgin, English subtitles, again, appealing to tourists. But we also have them shown in like cinemas on the outskirts of the suburbs. And this thing about like mixing ordinary mainstream films with porn films took like a further step with the new cinema licensing law in 1972, which opened up for multiplex cinemas. So we have the Cinema 128, very centrally placed cinema. So you can actually choose to go into the cinema and you want to watch what's it called? Steven Spielberg Shooting Express. You want to watch Alaska's The Last Detail, or you want to watch a porn film. They show all day. So, and this you can also find in other, something that goes on also in Studio 122, which is kind of developed into a porn cinema. And okay. For the Copenhagen numbers, I've done this chart which kind of gives you an idea about where the porn film originates from. And we have to say that these are softcore, but in the beginning, 71, 72, they're mainly Danish films. And then the American films, with the red color, kind of takes over the market, and there's only very few of the Danish films shown. So this is Copenhagen, but how about the rest of Denmark? So I did the same exercise with a with another paper. This is called Morgen i Jyllands-Posten, an old established morning paper. Did the same sample 4 days, not that many years, only 8 years. Copenhagen is situated here. This cinema listings covers Fyn and the whole of Jutland, and that's about 150 cinemas. And you see the same that in the beginning we have softcore films like the Schulmädchen report from the German ones, but then the first one that was the first pornographic film was a Danish film called Ilse, David Ilse. And we find some more films, new Danish film, but you see the same things that you walk into a mainstream cinema, you can watch an ordinary film, you can watch a porn film. But what was really curious about going through these cinemas was that there was these 2 series of films, and you can find them in quite a lot of different cinemas. And one is called Porn Show, and they start, I don't know when they start, but from my sample I find like Porn Show 33, 64, and so on, up to 77. And there's also another show called Perversions, and the last one I found was 26. And that's between 1972 and 1976. So that points in a direction that probably there's been like kind of a compilation show or something that's kind of toured different cinemas. I really don't know. Again, in Jutland, the American films comes into the market around 73, and it's kind of the highlight. In August 75, you can go into Aalborg, that's a city about 100,000 people, and there are like 4 places you can watch porn films. And if you look at the rest of cinema listings, you're able to find a lot of different hardcore pornography in ordinary cinemas all around Jutland and Fyn. And you have to add a lot of sex comedies on top of that. What is also interesting about looking at Fyn and Jutland, it seems like a lot of the films are like circulating for a long time. Just a couple of examples. The Bordello is still shown in a small cinema in August 77. It was released in 72. And the Sign of the Virgil is still shown in 77. So, I'll do it. Sorry? from in Copenhagen, it seems like the showing of pornography during this decade ends up like being concentrated in certain cinemas, Carlsen Studio 1 to 6. The Danish films only dominated for a brief period early. Yeah, and the films are shown in the center of Copenhagen in tourists with subtitles. On Jutland film, it's much more diverse. There's still a concentration that some of the cinemas in the big cities, like Velas and Royal, in Aarhus, Kinografen, the cinema Kinografen in Aalborg, and Imperial in Odense, becomes like the pornographic cinemas. But otherwise, they're shown pornographic films everywhere. Out of the about 150 cinemas, 86 of them shows pornography at some point during this period. And there's no indications of these are of the Danish films that they are marketed with the English subtitles. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isak.